Hello and welcome to the Raw podcast brought to you by the Sunderland Echo. And we're back for another preview podcast. Today we're going to be looking ahead to two playoff games between Sunderland and Luton in the Championship playoff semi-final. The first leg taking place at the Stadium of Light on Saturday, with the second leg then happening at Kenilworth Road on Tuesday. So to preview the two matches, joining myself, Joe Nicholson, we are joined by Mike Simmonds from our sister title Luton Today. Mike, how's things?
Not bad. Everything good with you?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to these two games. Obviously, Luton have been preparing for them for a while. Sunderland weren't sure if they were going to get into the playoffs until the last day. So with Luton obviously finishing third in the table, it's their second successive playoff campaign in the Championship, and they've known for a while they're going to be in the playoffs. So what's the kind of feeling like around Luton?
It's just one of confidence at the moment, really. I think, as you mentioned, they knew they were going to be getting into the playoffs since the Reading game last month. It was always looking likely before then, anyway. So it's just been one of the looking forward to it. They're confident. They believe they can do it this time. They're in a much better shape than last year when they lost to Huddersfield. So yeah, I think it's just a sort of genuine belief and confidence that they can go win it this time.
Both sides obviously coming into the game in quite good form, which you'd expect from two sides kind of finishing in the top six. Sunderland on a 9-match unbeaten run. Luton, I think, on a 14-match unbeaten run. So what has kind of been the main strengths and how have they kind of found that success in recent weeks?
The defence has been amazing recently. I mean, they've been 14, as you mentioned, 14 unbeaten. I think it's only one defeat in 20, and that was against Burnley, and that was a late penalty. Clean sheets, they've kept so many clean sheets this season. I think it's 20 now for the season. So they've been really hard to score against. Someone like Marvellous Nakamura has come in as well. And from open play, they've only conceded about 3 goals, I think, in that time. And one of those was a goalkeeping error. One of those was an offside goal. So they've just been really hard to score against. And they've scored goals at the other end as well. They've got Carlton Morris on 20 goals for the season. People like Elijah Adebayo has popped up as well with goals. So just the real sort of tough to beat, and the fact that they managed to get this unbeaten run going, and they're really proud of that record, and they want to carry it on. I think that's been the main kind of factors as to why they're in such good form at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I was just looking at Rob Edwards' comments just before coming on, and he was saying that they'll try and keep it tight at the back coming to the Stadium of Light, but it's not a game that they're going to just sit there and kind of play for a draw in the first leg. So how do you think they will approach the first leg coming up to the Stadium of Light, knowing they've obviously got that second game at Kenilworth Road?
Yeah, I don't think they'll go for. They'll obviously not. I don't think they'll be massively expansive to start with, and I think they'll obviously play the situation, play the crowd. I mean, there's going to be 45,000 there, so it's that they can't really go all gung ho to start with, because obviously they know as well they're back at Kenilworth Road for the second leg. But I don't also think they'll just park the bus and just sit and hold out for the draw, because they know that with Sunderland's attacking players, that's probably not the best thing to do, because that's obviously where the main threats are for the opposition. So, I mean, they'll try and keep it tight. They'll try and not concede, but they'll also then try and counter and take and create chances and take them as well. So, they're definitely not going to be sitting there looking for a draw. But if they did get a draw, I don't think it would be the worst result for them to come back for the home leg for.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the sides met quite recently as well. It was back in March, a 1-1 draw at the Stadium of Light. Sunderland taking a late point with Ahmad scoring from the penalty spot, which is probably fair to say it was quite a soft penalty to earn Sunderland a draw that day. But how do you kind of look back on that match now, and how did Luton kind of reflected it at the time, the way that the two sides matched up?
Luton were gutted in the end with how that ended. I mean, it was never a penalty, was it? One of the softest ones you're going to see all season. I think the referee that they've actually said after, I think their Premier League, was it Chris Foy, I think, has said that it shouldn't have been a penalty, and all their hard work sort of went out the way for a point. But in the end, after the penalty went in, they were then lucky to hold on for the point. So they were quite they're very disappointed, obviously, with how the game went. But they do think that's going to help them going into this game, because they've seen what the Stadium Light is like when it's sort of really, really buzzing in those last 10 minutes. So they think that could help them going into this game. That they thought they should have won the game, really, and held on for the 1-0 victory. So yeah, that they weren't too happy with the end outcome of that one, and I think that might maybe possibly spur them on going into this game as well.
Well, that also proved quite a significant result in Sunderland's kind of run. Sunderland, as we mentioned before, on a 9-match unbeaten run, and that was the first game of the 9-match unbeaten run. Sunderland taking a point against Luton, and it proved quite significant. But you mentioned about coming up to the Stadium of Light. It's obviously going to be a big crowd at Sunderland. It's going to be a sellout crowd there. Luton have obviously been in the playoffs before last season, losing out to Huddersfield in the semi-final. So how do you think they're kind of equipped with last season's playoff experience, and also how do you think they're equipped for playing in front of a big crowd on Wearside?
They should be equipped for the crowd now. I mean, they've got a 12-game unbeaten run away from home, and they've played in front of some big crowds. They've gone to Sheffield United and they've won there in front of about 28,000. And they've obviously played at Sunderland. I think 37,000 were at that game. So I think they're now the players they've got players who played in the Premier League as well. They've got an experienced squad. So I don't think the actual crowd in the situation will affect them too much. They've got internationals as well who would have played in big crowds. So I think that will help them. At going to last season, they were so depleted last season in terms of the squad and the injuries that they could barely get a bench together. Someone like Adebayo came on for the last 5 minutes, and he could barely walk in that game as well. So that's obviously going to, I think the disappointment of last season, they don't want to go through that again. So that's obviously going to spur them on for this game. And just the fact that they've now got a squad that only Cooley Woodrow is out for these 2 legs. That's the one player missing. So to go into the playoffs with pretty much a full strength and fully fit squad is a huge boost for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just seeing what Rob Edwards had to say, he seemed to say that they were going into the playoffs in good shape. And as you mentioned, it looks like only Woodrow's the only player that could miss out. But you mentioned some of the players there. Obviously, we'll have seen some Luton players over the course of the season and during the 2 games between Sunderland and Luton. But who would you kind of say that pick out as the key players for this Luton side?
They've got a really good spine to the side. Obviously, Carlton Morris, 20 goals this season. Yeah. First time that any player's done that at this level since back in 1981-82 for Luton. I mean, he's been a great signing for them. And then you've got Marvellous Nakamba, who's come in from Aston Villa on loan, and he's just been amazing as the holding midfielder in front of the back 3. They speak so highly of him. I think Rob recently said he was his favourite player in world football at the moment. So he plays a massive role in the team. And then you've got Tom Lockyer, who has been the main defender this year in the Championship team of the season as well. He's had a fantastic season after starting the season, not in the team for the first 4 games. So he's really come back and been a main asset for them. So those 3 players, if you're looking at a sort of a key 3, those would be the ones. And you've got people like Cody Dramé and Alfie Doughty as the wing backs. And they're really strong in all areas of the pitch. But if you're looking at the 3 sort of main players, you go for those 3 at the moment.
Mm. And it looks like it's going to be that back 3 and wing backs as well. That was quite consistent under Nathan Jones before Rob Edwards, and then Rob Edwards has come in and seems like he's kind of stuck with that system.
Yeah, he mentioned actually yesterday. He said that he'll pick a team to the strength of the players. So he wasn't going to come in, and because they were doing well, I mean, they were mid-table and only a few points off the playoffs when Nathan left. It wasn't like he was coming into a side that was struggling. So he obviously assessed the squad, saw what they were good at, saw what had been working for them, and kind of kept that because that's what they knew and that's what they were used to. And yeah, he sort of just kept things going really. And he's added some players obviously and brought in a few, but yeah, he's mainly, I think he likes to keep a system that's working.
You're just able to put into words kind of what a good job Rob Edwards has done, because I imagine it would have been quite difficult coming into a club where they've had a manager who's had a lot of success in Nathan Jones. I imagine was very popular with the fan base, and he's come in and almost looks like from the outside looking in, taking it to another level and now kick them on to finish 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, he came in, lost his first game at Middlesbrough, but that was after the the World Cup, so it was kind of a bit of a free hit, that one. But since then, I mean, he won his first home game, which was a really important game because their home form had been they'd drawn a lot of games. They hadn't lost too many, but they'd drawn so many games at home. He came in and beat Norwich straight away with a late goal, and it's kind of gone on from then. I mean, he's improved them. They're playing better football now under him. There's more passing and the way they attack. He's just come in and he's connected with the fans quite quickly as well, which he was worried about because obviously he was the Watford manager at the start of the season, but he only there for a little bit, as most Watford managers are. So he kind of that connection started early on with them, and he deserves massive credit for how he's come in, and he's taken them on. And I mean, it was been hard to better last season's finish at 6th. I mean, at the start of the season, not many would have really believed they could have done that. But he's taken them up to 3rd, and they were almost pipping Sheffield United a few weeks back. So yeah, he deserves massive credit for the job he's done since taking over.
You touched on it before about last season's playoff campaign. How much do you think that will help the side going into these two games, and how much of the squad is there from last season going into kind of this playoff campaign?
It's not, when you look at not too much of the same squad now. They obviously a few players left in the summer, and people like Cal Naismith moved on, and because there were so many injuries last season that a lot of the players who are now available for this game didn't play last season because they were injured. So that's going to have the ones who missed out last season. Obviously, they want to. It's a massive chance for them to have an impact on the playoffs this time around. So it's quite a different team that will take to the field. And I just think that obviously they had that disappointment of missing out last year, and it sounds like it was a crushing loss for them, because they should have at least got to Wembley. They were the better team over the two legs, but they just couldn't score because they didn't have Adebayo, they didn't have their striking options available to them, and now they've got a better squad with more depth. So yeah, I think they can use that disappointment to their advantage going to these games, and just know that they have got a better team and a better squad available for them for the two matches.
Mm-hmm. I was just reading before about Luton captain Sonny Bradley, who's he's come back into the team in recent weeks after an injury, but he's going to be leaving the club at the end of the season. Kind of what's the situation with him, and is he expected to play a part during these two games?
His contract's coming to an end this season, and he hasn't played. He had a really bad knee injury, which kept him out for a long time. And when you look at the sort of the first choice back three, he probably wouldn't be in it, and so his first team opportunities were going to be limited. They then had injuries to Dan Potts, Osho, and Burke, which meant he came back in and has played the last few games now. But if everyone's fit and available, he's probably not one of the main three defenders who are going to play in that system. So I think Rob knows that, and I think Sonny knows that, and so he wants to get regular first team football next season. So I think it's an amicable decision, and he'll move on and look for that. Whether he plays or not, it depends. If everyone's fit, he'll probably be on the bench for these matches.
Mm-hmm. And just finally, then obviously you'll have seen Sunderland at least twice this season with the two games that they've played against Luton. But what have you kind of made of them, and how do you think the two sides will match up over these two playoff games?
I think it's going to be a very tight one. Obviously, from watching Sunderland in the games I've seen them, I mean, Clark's a good player. They've got some really good attacking threats, and Patrick Roberts as well, and Diallo. They look dangerous. So, and the Luton players know that as well. They know that the main problem, or the main hit for Sunderland, is going to be their attacking players. Some who have gone for lots of money as well in the past. So, it's going to be an interesting one. If Luton can keep clean sheets against them, especially away from home, it will set it up perfectly for the home leg. But I think they know that they're going to be under pressure in the games, and they know that the attacking threats are where it's going to be won for Sunderland. So they're definitely aware of that. Yeah.
It's interesting as well when you're speaking about Luton's kind of good away record. Also, Sunderland have been better away from home this season, particularly in recent months. So it's two sides maybe that are better away from home. Luton obviously finishing third, and in theory getting the advantage of playing the second leg at home, but maybe that won't be the case. But I've just got to ask as well, how are Luton from set pieces, because it's a particular area of weakness for Sunderland at the minute. They've lost a lot of their taller, stronger players, and were exposed against Watford in their last home game, conceding from two corners. So I imagine Luton with some big guys at the back, probably quite a threat from set plays.
You would think that, but weirdly they don't often score that many from set plays. They did actually score recently in the game against Middlesbrough. Tom Lockyer scored a header straight from a corner, and they did get one against Watford as well, off like a second phase off a corner as well. But that's not been their main kind of way of scoring goals recently. So it's not been a sort of a major asset for them. But as you mentioned, if that's something that Sunderland struggle at, I'm sure they'll definitely look to sort of to use that. I mean, they've got great set piece delivery with Alfie Doughty, and they've got big players, Carlton Morris, and the defenders as well. So it's something that they can obviously use. They just haven't really scored a great deal of them so far this season.
Yeah, well, Sunderland fans will be pleased to hear that, but obviously they do still pose a threat from set plays. But Mike, thanks a lot for joining us. We usually just finish by just asking our guests just for a quick score prediction for the first leg we'll go for at the Stadium Light. How do you think that game's going to pan out? I'm going to go for a draw in that one. It's sitting on the fence, I know, but I think with the first leg and with neither team wanting to sort of give away too much, I'll go for a 1-1 up there. Yeah, I was going to say a 1-1 draw as well. I think the first leg you often see teams that maybe don't want to lose it, and I think with you mentioned Luton have got a good defensive record. I think it'll be a great atmosphere at the stadium, like sold out. The fans will really get behind Sunderland. So, yeah, I think as Rob Edwards said as well, it is expecting a tight couple of games. But Mike, thanks a lot for joining us on the latest episode of the Raw podcast. If you like what we do here at the Raw podcast, please consider subscribing on our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcasts and leaving a review. And for all the latest SFC news, you can head over to the SFC section of the Sunderland Echo website. You can find the thoughts of head coach Tony Mowbray, and we'll also have more build-up to Saturday's match at the Stadium of Light as Sunderland take on Luton in the first leg of the Championship playoffs. We'll also have post-match reaction and analysis over on our website. So once again, thanks a lot for listening to the Raw podcast.